Hi, and welcome to the Free Thinkers Podcast. I am your host, Mateo. Our guest today is Ahitza Roque, a senior at West East High School. And today we are going to talk about the pathway to psychiatry. So Ahitza, in your own words, what is psychiatry, and what do psychiatrists do?
Psychiatry is the study, research, and treatment of mental illness and mental disorders, and psychiatrists are medical doctors that have gone to medical school and specialized in diagnosing, preventing, and treating mental disorders.
Now, when you hear about mental illness, some may think of psychologists instead of psychiatry. And that may be because psychology today maybe overshadows psychiatry, and some people just may mistake the psychiatry field for just general psychology. So, in your own words, what is the difference between psychiatry and psychology?
Well, the difference isn't really the field itself. The difference is the profession. And the main difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist is that psychiatrists are medical doctors. They've gone to medical school and they have the ability to prescribe you medicine, and psychologists, they have the ability to diagnose you with a mental illness, but their treatment is more based on counseling and behavioral intervention instead of medicine and basically the chemistry of a mental illness.
So psychiatry is more medical.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what types of disorders do psychiatrists deal with? And how do they deal with them?
Psychiatrists could deal with anything ranging from anxiety, depression to post-traumatic stress syndrome and schizophrenia. Anything that has to do with like a personality disorder or a mental illness, a psychiatrist can treat it, and they'll do it through psychotherapy. They'll try to talk to you and treat you, and they'll prescribe you medicine in order to balance out any imbalances in your brain, any chemical imbalances in your brain.
Now, since we were talking about the pathway to psychiatry, at some point, someone who wants to become a psychiatrist needs to try to find a job in psychiatry. Now, have you seen a shift in the demand of psychiatrists, and how has the rate of employment of psychiatrists responded to any shift in demand?
Definitely. In the United States, there's currently a shortage of doctors, actually. There's too many people getting sick, and there's not enough doctors to treat them. And at the moment, of course, there's more of a demand for doctors than there are. And so a lot of people, especially now that social media is extremely prevalent in our society and more people have become aware of mental illness, there are a lot more people that are open to the idea of becoming a psychiatrist and wanting to help people. And so I definitely believe that there has been an increase of the need of psychiatrists.
Now, do you feel that a huge presence of the topic of mental health today may be a factor in the job opportunities for aspiring psychiatrists in the future?
Definitely. The more that we talk about mental illness and the more that we realize that it is out there and that someone shouldn't be ashamed of it, that there are options to get better and to get treated, the more that we're aware of it, there are more people out there that find themselves being gravitated toward that profession. If you want to help people and you believe you have the ability to truly make a difference through counseling and medicine, then psychiatry will definitely be a pathway that you could find yourself as. And I definitely believe that social media has a lot to do with it, because so many people are more open to the idea of getting help than they were 20, maybe even 10 years ago.
Now, for me, it makes sense that because we now live in a society where mental health is continuing to grow in terms of how much people accept it and how much people are more comfortable with talking about it, it seems to me that fields like psychology and psychiatry will not only remain constant in the future, but will in turn grow because of it. And I do agree that social media does have an effect on the fields, both positive and negative. But the fact that social media connects everyone around the world and it's constantly making people more comfortable with sharing their experiences and sharing their mental state and sharing how important it is to get help, psychiatry and psychology will be around for the infinite future.
Yeah, as long as there's people, there's going to be people problems, and that's where psychiatry comes in.
Now, going back a little bit in the pathway, since psychiatry is more medical than psychology, do you have to go to medical school before you become a psychiatrist?
Yes, you do. In some states, they will allow psychologists to prescribe medicine, but for the most part, you have to go to medical school in order to become a psychiatrist. You have to go to medical school and go through your residency and everything in order to be a board certified psychiatrist.
And are there any tests and requirements that you need to be taking before you get into that medical school?
Yes, before you can apply to medical school, you need to receive your bachelor's degree. It could be in anything, really, but as long as you have those, the med school requirements. And a test that you need to take is the MCAT test, which is the Medical College Admissions Test. It is a computer-based test that scores your problem-solving, critical thinking. It's a written analysis, and it tests your overall knowledge of scientific concepts in order to see, how best fit you will be for medical school.
Now, for someone who's looking into psychiatry, what are the courses for pathway in psychiatry look like?
Well, in your undergrad, you have to take science classes like biology, physics, chemistry, all the different kinds of chemistry, like organic chemistry and other chemistries like that. But you also have to take, psychology and ethics and life science courses in order to know what are the rights and wrongs in being a doctor. And then in med school, the courses become more specified and centered around whichever specialization you want to go into. And so in med school, you have to take like behavioral science, psychopathology, and psychiatry clerkship, including other STEM related and science related fields like pathology and anatomy.
Okay.
And including your medical school and undergraduate studies, the science field is always growing, and so in your workplace, you're never going to stop learning. You're always learning new things, and STEM is always growing, so you have to grow with it.
Now, how long does it generally take to finish this pathway?
In total, after your high school graduation, it should take, or average is about 12 years. It is 4 years of your undergrad, 4 years of your medical school, and 4 years as a in your psychiatric residency. And it's 12 years.
Okay. Now, what places, meaning states or countries, have the highest demand for psychiatrists?
In the United States, New Mexico and Pennsylvania take the top 2 spots for the states that have the most demand for psychiatrists. And around the world, the countries that ask or demand most psychiatrists are Switzerland, Sweden, the UK, and the US.
Now, in the US, what is the average salary for psychiatrists?
The average salary in the United States for a psychiatrist is around $214,546. So it's pretty well.
Now, how do you feel your research has helped you with your future plans, and how do you feel it may help others?
My research has definitely opened my eyes to a field that I never knew about before. I had a pretty basic concept of what psychiatry was, but thanks to my research, I now understand how big mental health plays in our society and our growth as a whole. Coming into senior year, I didn't have a good idea of what I wanted to be, and even now it's still cloudy, but at least I have an idea of how I want to help the world, and I'm really grateful to have this class as an escape to research something that otherwise I wouldn't have the time to do. And I believe that that other people should do the same, because how else are you going to get to know the world if you don't take the time to research about it?
And not everyone in the independent studies class chooses a project where they dive deep into a new profession that they may not know about. But I think it's very important, one, for yourself, but also for the other people who might see your content, because I know for me, I did a project on forensic psychology last year, and that's because I would see shows like CSI and Criminal Minds, and I would think to myself, I want to be that guy, and I want to psychoanalyze people and catch a lot of criminals that way. But once I did my research, I found found out that forensic psychology really isn't that. And there's a effect known as the CSI effect, where because of these TV shows, a lot of people are confusing what forensic psychology really is. So I think the same could happen with psychiatry, psychology, any field that you would like to go in. So I think it's important to research it. And many people outside of the school and outside of the community who want to be psychiatrists, if they see your project and they get more of a idea of what the field actually is, it can either help them understand this may not be what I want to do, or it will motivate them even more because they understand to the full extent what that is.
Well, when I applied to college, I knew I wanted to, thanks to the research, I know at least I have a clear idea of what the next 4 years of my life will look like, and I'm really grateful for that.
Well, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.